The Hawkeyes just landed a game changer. Bryce George, one of the top offensive line transfer portal candidates, is heading to Iowa City. What it means for this year's offensive line.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. I've been covering the Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio in the state of Iowa, including currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network with stations in Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Quad Cities, Sioux City, and our flagship 106.3 KXNO in Des Moines each and every weekday from noon to 2, talking the world of sports, myself and Ken Miller. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200, $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Simple as that over at FanDuel. Today, we're going to get into the Iowa baseball team. A nice win for them as they open up their road series at Michigan, an important one as they look to maintain their spot at the top of the Big Ten. They get a big one on Friday evening against the Wolverines. We'll be talking with Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com, latest on the what's happening in the portal from his perspective, and a whole lot more coming your way. But we begin, well, in that same spot with the transfer portal, and a transfer portal that has been incredibly fruitful for the Iowa Hawkeyes. So we're going to talk basketball. We're going to talk football. And we also got a couple other news and notes that we're going to get into. Kind of a busy end of week episode to get you through the weekend here on Locked On Hawkeyes. Let's start, though, with the big news of the day, and that is the commitment of Bryce George, the talented Ferris State transfer. 41 games at Ferris State. Now, offensive line prospects, one of the more difficult ones for lay fans like ourselves, right, to figure out. You can see a highlight package of an offensive lineman and look really good. You're not going to be sure if it's going to translate. And there's been so many instances of that we don't know. You know, one thing we've talked about a little bit here with George is there are very varying opinions about what he is at the Big Ten level. You know, is this a guy that's going to be able to come in right away and compete to be a left tackle? Is that realistic for him? Making the transition from D2 football, moving into the Big Ten, and just having 1 year of eligibility, is that a realistic path for him to be able to hit? And that's what they're going to have to figure out. When this also comes up as quickly as it is, remember, Iowa's been practicing now for a couple of weeks. And as we went in, obviously the biggest question mark offensively for Iowa was left tackle coming in. Jack Doetzler played 20 snaps. Trevor Lauk, I still think has a chance to be good, but he just hasn't played. He's young. He's going to be a redshirt sophomore next year. And that's what you have at the left tackle position. The other component is a lot of times you take a guy like Jennings Dunker, who was an all Big Ten performer a year ago. We know how he has kind of rebuilt himself and retooled his body and playing at such a high level at the right tackle position. You wonder, well, could he be a guy that goes to left? Doesn't appear to be the case. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on with Tom Kakert from Hawkeye Report when he joins us. So Jennings Dunker, you kind of cross that one out, right? Not going to happen. He's not going to be a left tackle. You look at Bryce George. Does it translate? Is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Because, as I said yesterday, when we heard that Iowa was interested, right away my mind went to left tackle. But it very well could be that they feel confident there and they just see George as an interior piece. Or maybe another component, they see him as a depth piece. Because outside of Jennings Dunker, there's not a guy in this roster that has played appreciable minutes at the tackle spot. And to go into any season like that, it's pretty crazy. You don't want to do it. And when the opportunity is there, you make it happen. I know there's been some pushback as well. D2 kid. They've tried this before. It hasn't worked. Sure. You can make that argument. Not all kids are created equal. You're hoping it's certainly going to be a healthy year for Bryce George and what he's going to be able to do. But it's not like it was just Iowa alone. There were other programs. It was down to Iowa and USC for his services. USC knows what they're doing just a little bit. So I have a hard time going that direction. Big news, though, and we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up with Hawkeye Reports' Tom Kakert. Let's talk a little basketball and kind of a wild Friday going on. So Nick Lewis, 4-star point guard out of the D.C. area, former Xavier commit, reopened. Looked like for a while it was trending. It was down to a final two of Vanderbilt or Iowa. People in the recruiting circles believe that Vandy had a little more leverage, a little more financial that was going to be able to lead him going that way. And yet, for a few hours Thursday night into Friday morning, it looked like Nick Lewis was going to commit to the Hawkeyes. And then maybe starting to ask him for a little bit more. Financial package he was looking for wasn't there. And here comes VCU swooping in, and they made it happen. Now, VCU, we have to remember, is a program that is financially very good shape. VCU doesn't have football. VCU has made a Final Four. VCU has a program that has been invested in over the last decade, unlike Iowa basketball. VCU is a good program, and it's been a more successful program for Iowa, but they also have a fan base that will spend, and they have a donor base that is spent. Here's the thing. Nick Lewis was not going to really make a big difference this year for Iowa basketball. Yeah, it's nice landing a top 100 kid, but we know in today's environment, that doesn't mean a whole lot. The way the portal is, you just don't know. Don't want to have sour grapes about it, but look around. Sturts is going to play a ton. He's going to be the guy. And he's going to be out there 34, 36, 38 minutes a game. I mean, that's what you're going to do because that's what he did a year ago. And even if you give him a little bit of break, a couple minutes here and there, he is going to be your point guard almost all the time. Take it a step further. And now we get to the big man. And that is the biggest remaining need for Iowa basketball, is they have to find a big that's ready to play right away, a plug-and-play player. Now that what leads us back to Robert Morris, Alvaro Fulggeras. So Folgueris is such a fun prospect for Ben McCollum. And if you watch the highlight videos that are out there, again, with the caveat, they are highlight videos, I get it. You see a guy that fits incredibly well to the Ben McCollum system. Pick and pops, pick and rolls, his ability to shoot the basketball, really good footwork, 6'9", rebounds well for a 6'9" guy, can defend centers, and I think he would be at least okay on that avenue, and certainly the way that Ben McCollum teaches defense, I think also goes hand in hand along with that. Now, there is nothing official. There are no reports as we sit here late on Friday night talking about this, that he is committed to Iowa. But many people are speculating and believing that the commitment's been there. And there's some of those fake Twitter accounts, the burner accounts, those kind of places that say he is, but nothing definitive. We'll see. Maybe by Saturday, wake up, he'll be committed. Maybe it'll happen over the weekend. Regardless, we got you covered. We're with you every day, and we will have you covered, your team every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Network, and a big shout out to the everydayers out there. We have you covered on that front. One final nugget, and that is with women's basketball. So, Jan Jensen made her coaching hire. Alessandra Barrett from Georgia Tech. Been around the block, recruiting coordinator at Georgia Tech. Has been at a number of institutions. When you look at her, though, I'll be honest, where my mind went the first time was to Kate Harpering, Matt Harpering's daughter, who was on a visit not too long ago because of that Atlanta connection. Of course, that's where he played, but one of the top players in the country, next year's recruiting class. Harpering's where my mind went right away. Not sure what kind of relationship they have. However, you never know. We'll see on that one. Congratulations, though, Jan, filling that one out. Now, they got to go find a point guard, a ready-made point guard, just like we talked about ready-made things. And Iowa men's basketball needs a ready-made center. We go the other way. The Iowa women need a point guard that is ready to play right away if they're going to be an NCAA tournament team. Locked On Hawkeyes continues. We talk with Tom Kakert. We'll go a little bit deeper into the world of recruiting, what he's hearing, and some spring football practice news and notes. Who's surprising? And yes, is Iowa actually good at wide receiver? That's next. Locked On Hawkeyes. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment HUD with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops, and Avowed. As easily as you can stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and a whole lot more. Got a new TV down here in the basement. Absolutely love it, and love it with that 4K streaming and your Fire TV. And a whole lot more. Hey, if you're into gaming, they got you covered here with this Fire TV. Stick 4K can be an absolute game changer for you. If you love that gaming, this is what you're looking for. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and a compatible price. Just find it Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On.
Friend Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com, in his Friday spot. He joins us to talk Hawks. Good to talk to you, Tom. Trent and Ken, thanks for coming on. How's things? Tell us about Ferris State offensive lineman Bryce George, who's going to be a Hawkeye and a spot of need, that offensive line. Is he a left tackle?
Well, he's probably going to get a shot at being a left tackle. Played on, the Ferris State team that won 3 national titles and started for that team. So that tells you that, even though it's a level lower, he's still a very good player and very talented. So I think it's just, you have to kind of look at it from a more grander perspective of, they've only got really one offensive tackle coming back that played, and Jennings Dunker had some knee issues last year. Where he missed some time at the end of the year. So you've got to factor that in with the fact that, honestly, Dosler and Trevor Lauk are going to have to play sometime, but they have not played a lot of snaps. So the opportunity to go out and get somebody who's played a lot of snaps at the college levels, a mature guy who's only going to be 1 year on your books, I think it was too attractive to pass up.
Ken brought it up. Is he a left tackle? And if they prove, he goes through practice and they start to see him a little bit and say, you know what, that jump coming up from D2, he's not there. Can Jennings Dunker be a left tackle? I mean, is that something that could fit? I think a year ago, he was going through kind of a change in his weight. He lost a bunch of weight, added some quickness there. Could he get there by August camp that he could potentially be your left tackle? And then you're looking over at the right tackle position and flipping things around with George.
It would be a surprise if Dunk moved. Just Dunk said before, he's like, I really don't want to play left tackle. I just don't feel right over there. It just doesn't feel comfortable to him. So would he do it if he had to? Yeah, I would guess. But I thought they needed another tackle anyway, just because they needed some depth at the position. I'm a little surprised just because just talking to some people last year during bowl prep, they thought that Trevor Lauk had really come along, and that the belief was that he was going to end up being the starting left tackle. this year, and it just hasn't, for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. Here's the thing you worry about too, guys, is that for every action there is a reaction, and we see this all the time now. It's just like, okay, you're going to go out and shop and get a guy and push me back for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's 100% chance that guys are getting calls now. Hey, why don't you jump in the portal? We got X number of dollars for you.
And a spot.
And a spot to potentially play. I mean, it's just how the game is today. It's so strange. It's like free agency 24/7, 365.
It really is. When does it close?
I think the 25th.
Okay.
So like the day before Iowa's spring game, I think. Something like that.
You had an opportunity, Tom, yesterday, or late in the week, I think it was yesterday, to talk to some of the receivers. Certainly some, obviously, I guess I'll start with Seth Anderson, who, by the sounds of things, is, at least for now, going to be healthy. It's just one of those guys that you want to see what's there, but you just, unfortunately, hasn't been able to stay on the field due to injuries. Think he's got the skill set to maybe not excel, but certainly have a big role in this offense. Maybe that was my biggest takeaway with Seth Anderson, listening to you guys talk to them yesterday.
Yeah. Heard some buzz in the last week or so from some people who've been at practice that, boy, he's carving up the defense. And, I may say something about the defense too, but it also says something about the fact that, I think it's been, Seth Anderson has been in street clothes more than he's been in uniform, especially in fall camp and spring practice. So, just seeing him out there, and there's some talent, and now it's starting to happen for him. Now it's just staying healthy. Got to see Sam Phillips yesterday too. But he's small. I think he's listed at 5'8". That might be generous.
Okay.
He might be more like 5'7", 5'6". Just he's kind of fire plug build, but apparently very quick. So he seems like he's fitting in real well. But the general feeling I've gotten from talking to some people who are pretty objective about things is that the offense, particularly the passing game, has been really good this spring, and that they have executed a lot of big plays against the Iowa defense so far. Now that may be a harbinger of things to come for the Iowa defense too.
Mm-hmm.
I joked on our podcast last night that my bold prediction maybe for the season is maybe we see some shootouts for Iowa football this year, because the defense might not be as strong. I know they're out looking for cornerbacks right now as well to kind of stabilize that position, because they've got the two starters. But after that, guys who really haven't played much, Jalen Watson played a little bit last year, but other than that, they don't have a lot of experience there with John Nestor leaving.
And a couple of kids from Illinois State that started in Kinnick a year ago are in the portal, one from South Dakota, maybe a connection there. I got a kick yesterday. I saw your headline about Caden Weegan now on scholarship.
Yeah.
We know the scholarship limit, or the roster limit, is 105. Do we know exactly how this is going to work, though, as it pertains to scholarships? Because it just got my mind racing once again. What's this going to look like when basically we get to August? 105 is the roster limit, but as it pertains to scholarships for everybody.
Yeah, they're going to stick with 85.
Okay.
And I think they're at 80 right now with the addition of George. So they've got 5 scholarships to play with. Now it depends on what they're going to do with those, because I'm not sure what their plan is. But they've got some wiggle room, and they could add potentially some guys to the roster. But you also have to balance that with what kind. But they've communicated, I think, with all the walk-ons, and they've kind of figured out, here's the 20 that are going to stay, and here's everybody else's. If they're still here, they are going to have to find a new home. So, and they know that. So funny that like the House case has kind of gotten stuck in the mud on this point of, roster size. And boy, what Kirk Ferentz said months and months ago, hey, maybe we should have grandfathered this in. And the judge is saying the exact same thing, but everybody's already done all the cutting. So what's the point in trying to unring that bell. It just doesn't make any sense. So, so I think we're going to see 105 and 85 scholarships.
I want to go back to just the offense, the receivers for a second. You said you had some glowing reports about Seth Anderson and carving up the defense. I know Gronowski's not playing, so what does it say about Hank Brown? Might this be as advertised?
Yeah, I think he's had a good spring, and I think that may have been some part of the reason that Sully is, hit the portal was, one, he knows that the starter thing was going to probably happen for Gronowski, and I don't think he had any illusions that he was going to end up being a starter, but maybe he did, and he just finally realized it. I don't know, but I think Hank Brown's, I think he's probably got the strongest arm out of the guys that just watch him throw on the side. That, boy, he's got a big arm, big kid, and I know that Tim Lester's really high on him and his potential. So. Having said that, they're going to still keep recruiting guys, and I know they're trying to take 2 in 2026, and they're always poking around on quarterbacks. So it's amazing how they've remade that room in like a year. I mean, they've cleaned that thing out and just brought in a whole new set of players. It's crazy.
Absolutely. A little basketball to wrap things up. Tom Kakert joining us, HawkeyeReport.com. It is official, Trevin Urach, and Tom, I've told you before, I've saw Trev, I don't know, probably called 25 of his games now the last 3 years. Little birdie told me he's up to 6'11" now, and those growth plates are not closed yet. He is a very unique skill set. He passes the ball well. He was a guard growing up playing AAU hoops with the rest of that class. Athletically, there's work that needs to be done there. How do you think it's going to translate it, and what can Urach do, maybe even as a backup big right away?
Yeah, I think he gives them something that they don't really have on the roster right now, which is size. And, he's a below the rim guy. I don't think anybody's going to, say he's like, well, he's going to be above the square blocking shots or anything. But he's smart. He knows how to play. He's just one of those guys that when you watch the film, he's like, oh, this kid just kind of, he knows what he's doing. He knows his limitations. He knows what he's good at, knows where he's going to struggle, and plays to his strengths. I just find him to be a very bright basketball player. So he's a guy that they can develop. I think they, obviously they need to find another big man, experienced guy. So Trev doesn't have to come in and just and be an impact type player, but they can do that and they can bring him along at a more reasonable pace. I think that's, going to serve him well as he moves forward in his college career.
Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com, part of the On3 network. Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com. Tom, thank you, as always, and we'll talk to you in a week. Have a great week, Tom.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Yep, good to talk to you. Tom Kakert, so we check in on Iowa.
Always great stuff out of Tom. Appreciate his time joining us as we talk all things Hawkeyes. Well, the big Friday in the transfer portal wasn't all. Yes, there's actually things happening on the field. We'll talk about the Iowa baseball team putting a win that puts himself in position to win yet another series and strengthen, yes, an NCAA tournament bid. We'll talk about that next. Locked On Hawkeyes. All right, back with you one final time here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. I'm Trent Condon. Thanks for being with us. Hit subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, or a 5-star review if you're listening. Really do appreciate it and helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans every day. Here's a shout out to you. Thanks for being with us every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Network. Your team every day. I got you covered on the Hawkeyes, but your favorite NFL team with the draft right around the corner, your favorite baseball team, hockey and NBA playoffs are underway, and a whole lot more, all right here on the Locked On Network. Iowa baseball moves to 15-4 now in the Big Ten as they survive against Michigan on Friday night. A nice victory for them. Now, there's still more work that needs to be done here. Got to get the series victory and a good start. 6-5, they get it done. Out hit the Wolverines 13-7. The Bats came to play, and yet in a night where you don't play your best, win your clunkers. And that was certainly the case here. Cade Obermuller, who has been so tremendous for Iowa, putting himself in consideration, not just to be an all Big Ten pitcher, but maybe be on some of those All-American lists. That's how well he had been throughout the course of the year. Wasn't there. He walked 4, something that was pretty uncharacteristic of him, and yet Iowa found a way. Jumped out to an early lead, came back, and now they take this series lead. Iowa has now taken game 1 in their last 5 series. You get off to that good start, going to go a long ways. Got to finish it off, though, and had to use the bullpen probably a little bit more than they were anticipated here on a Friday night. Iowa's resume, though, improves for the NCAA tournament with this win. They had a big jump up, the RPI up to number 78 now after that victory. Want to certainly tack on a little bit more here, and you got an opportunity against this Michigan team. We've talked about it a ton. Iowa's end of schedule is going to be difficult, but there are opportunities that go along with it. And as you saw tonight and the big RPI jump that they had, getting a road victory as they did, that is going to go a long way, certainly, for them. Over to a little softball conversation as we continue to keep an eye on the Iowa softball team, battling to be in Big Ten tournament consideration themselves after the sweep last week against Maryland in the Big Ten. So things had to move around a little bit, and they'll be taking on Penn State. It will be a Saturday, Sunday, Monday when the softball team will be taking on Penn State this week as they moved a few things around. 6 o'clock first pitch on Saturday night against Penn State. They're a top 100 team, sitting about 500 on the year before they go to Michigan State next week. That's what's on tap for the softball team this weekend. Out of time for today. We will be back with you on Monday, though. Hopefully we'll have some official commitment news for Iowa basketball. Hopefully we'll have on the dotted line, all good with Alvaro Fulggeras. As a Folgueris, boy, he is a guy I'm incredibly excited about for Ben McCollum's group. And I'll tell you, I'm going to go right out there. If they land him, the roster that's not even done, that Ben McCollum has put together, I believe, year number 1, they will be an NCAA tournament team. But they have to get Folgueris. Let's grab another couple guys, too, on top of it. That is down the line. We are down the line with you coming up on Monday. Thanks for being with us as always. And don't forget, we are less than a week away from the NFL draft. Thanks as always for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft. Watch today's episode. It is tremendous with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Your favorite college players are getting ready for the next level. You can get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every single day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Back with you on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Until then, go Hawks.